The inaugural Cultural and Creative Industry Awards are set to honour and support creative and cultural achievers. Now, earlier, Minister of Sports, Arts and Culture, Zizi Kodwa, announced the nominees. Now, to tell us more about the awards and the various prizes, we're now joined in studio by Minister Zizi Kodwa and one of the adjudicators, Mr. Thebe Ikalafeng. Gentlemen, thank you so much for your time. Minister, perhaps let's start with you. Just talk to us about, of course, what the vision behind these awards, is, and also what are you fundamentally trying to achieve here?
You will appreciate that historically there's always been an outcry in the industry, creatives and cultural, that there is no opportunity for them that they are recognized. And therefore, if you look at the portfolio, the department has been more of a sport portfolio and left out other very important elements of the sport, which is creatives and heritage. That's why we always in the past had sports awards. When I came in, I asked the question, why are we not recognizing and acknowledging the creatives? And I think we have been working on that. There's been a great appreciation of the inaugural, which I thought is important because we've got to appreciate their contribution to the GDP, to the growth of the industry, as well as to what we are as a country, both in terms of either as authors, as publishers, as musicians, as designers. These are the people who are not acknowledged. All these categories, tables we'll talk about, a part of what we have announced today, will recognize. So that is where we come from. The vision is that in this country, whether talking about sport, there is a power in acknowledging excellence, because it does inspire other generations, especially the younger generation, when you recognize excellence. And this is part of that vision, that within the creatives and cultural sector, we acknowledge excellence.
Do you think that, when you look at where we are as a country now, we are marking 30 years as a democracy, and these are inaugural awards. Do you think somewhere, somehow, the drop was dropped in as far as these awards are concerned, or in fact, in terms of just recognizing people that are in this sector?
Well, I think a lot could have been done much better. We learn each day. I mean, if there was a thinking, let's say, in 1994, we could have had much better. We could have been at the level of the Grammys now. But I think it's better to be late than never. And I think the thinking and the process of thinking always comes with time. I think the timing of celebrating 30 years is just conjure well. And I think if we were to look back, there's a lot that unfortunately has happened. A lot of our creatives and cultural, many of them died as paupers, regrettably. I mean, if you look at the Mahlatinis, if you look at the Brenda Fasses, these are the people, in my view, should have been more recognized in their own country. But also some of them, even currently, they are more celebrated across Atlantic and Indian Ocean than their own country. Hence, when we came in, among others, we celebrated the recipients of the Grammy Awards, starting with Mama Miriam posthumously, up to the latest, Black Coffee and others. These are the things that as a country we may not recognize, important as they are, that those who participate and raise our flag internationally using creatives, using culture, we've got to acknowledge their excellence. So we want to elevate this at that level. It's an inaugural. There may be imperfections about it, but we think it's a good start.
And I want to speak about that, Minister, a little bit later on, just in terms of, is this platform the best one, to support these artists in as far as some of the comments that you've just made. But Thebe Ikalafeng, let me bring you into this conversation. Ikalafeng, I'm sorry about that. Of course, you are no stranger to this, industry. You have done it all. I mean, just you being on the panel probably inspires a lot of confidence for many people. So just talk to us about this process. I would imagine that it is going to be an extensive one. It must be comprehensive because we are talking about a thriving industry here.
Well, of course. I mean, I think the process has been very extensive. But I wanted to just add something to the Minister, that your question about 30 years or all those. I will say, though, that you must remember they actually have been recognized in silos. So what the Minister is doing, or the government sitting in the country and the department is doing now, is now bringing it all together. So in terms of whether it's advertising, whether it's design, whether it's acting, whether it's theatre, there have been awards already in that space. And what this represents is really the hallmark of excellence in cultural and creative excellence. excellence. So I think I just want to add that
No, I
part.
think that's an important point.
But also the important thing to your question about the process.
Yeah.
I mean, remember the process works like a pyramid in a way. There's a head judge, Nunu, then there's sectoral judges. There's 8 categories, and out of those 8 categories, there's 30 subcategories. So what we wanted to do with the adjudication is an independent from government. So government is not advocating who should be, who shouldn't be in there. And out of those categories, you've got people who are experts, who are respected, and who are incredibly experienced in their categories as leaders in their categories. And we started the process last year by doing a couple of things. The first one that needed to be done was a consultation with the industry, because you need to get buy-in, because the industry is already doing this in silos, as I've explained.
Yeah.
But now you need to create a buy-in to an explanation as to why are you now overseeing the one award that brings it all together.
Let's talk then about those, those timeframes, Thebe.
So, and that started last year.
Yeah.
And then this year, between the 8th February and the 1st of March was when the nomination process was opened. And from the 1st of March until last week was when we had to dig through all this, all these nominations to try and get the best 3 out of each category. And we went through 900. We got over 900 qualified nominations, and out of those, we will be awarding 25 excellent. And we're proud of them, because I think when they're announced, people will see that these are perhaps the creme de la creme of South Africa's creative excellence.
And the quality of the judges, I mean, where do they come from? What will they specifically be looking at in terms of?
Well, it's done already.
Okay.
So the judges like Makati Molibati comes from the art space. The judges like Professor Pitika Ntuli are well known. The judges like Alan Joffe. So these are people who are the best in their areas. I mean, the creative space. In my team, you've got people like Kolisa Jashana, who is the #1 creative director in the country for several years consecutively and internationally from South Africa. So across board, we had the quality of judges that you would expect to oversee such an endeavor.
Minister, Thebe speaks about, of course, how this is going to be such a comprehensive exercise already that has started. And earlier on, you spoke about, just some structural issues that are still within the sector. So when you look at, some of these dynamics that are still there, how best would it be then to take a couple of steps back and to say, what are some of the things that are really needed, from a structural perspective in terms of, just some of the legislature that we do have there that supports these artists? Because you are going to get criticism, when you announce such awards, to say some of these artists can't even afford to take a taxi back home after receiving an award. And as you've earlier said, is that some celebrated artists, die under sad circumstances where they have nothing to show for it.
We are proud to have a partner, our media partner, which is SABC yourselves, which is quite important because they reach to areas such as Jelele, such as Libote, Kwamhlabuya Lingana. We want to unearth that raw talent that ordinarily will not be able to be acknowledged in the city of gold, because we won't be able to come to Johannesburg. But let me just say 2 things. One of the biggest expo in a country such as US and UK is sport and arts and culture. And they're putting a lot of investment in those areas. We too, in South Africa, we have not quantified its contribution to the economy. So when you talk about arts and culture, you're not just talking about entertainment. We are talking about its contribution to the GDP, creating job and opportunities, skills and so on. And that is where we're shifting. It's business. So that people in the creatives, people in the cultural sector, they must know themselves that this is about business. As a musician, it's not about taking a stage, entertaining people. It's business. So there's a lot that in you too, you must empower yourselves about running business. So the master plan on creative industry, which was adopted by cabinet, talks about these issues about regulation. Part of what we have seen in the past is over-exploitation in the industry, either by recording companies and so on, because there's no regulations.
Yeah.
People work overtime. People, they are on set. When you call them, they'll say on set from 6 a.m. until midnight. There's no regulation, and they earn little. A lot of money that you give them, it goes either to promoters and so on. So there are certain things from the legislative point of view. Hence, there are 2 bills which have just been passed by Parliament now, before the desk of the President. The copyright bill, as well as amended the performance amendment bill, is part of the ways to regulate this industry, to make sure that it is recognized but also we must end exploitation and protect the vulnerable.
And I mean, we're talking about a bill that has been long in the making in terms of amendment. It's as old as 1978, I believe. But as we wrap up the conversation, I'm going to ask you just to wrap for 30 seconds, if you will. Thebe, let's start with you. Just in terms of what this means and what this signals then, you know, in terms of recognizing artists, as we've just heard this afternoon, that will, for generations to come, inspire those that are up and coming. I mean, we come from areas where in the ruralest of places, there's so much talent that needs to be unearthed.
What we needed in this country, we needed a benchmark of excellence. We needed people to aspire to something that is made in South Africa and Africa, instead of us always striving just to have a Grammy or an Oscar and all those. We want the world to come to us as well. And they say, I want to participate in the South African space because I love what they're doing. What South Africa has done, for example, we've exported a lot globally. You look at Esther Mahlangu from the visual art perspective. You look at Trevor Noah from the talk. We look at Black Coffee in music. Tyler. So South Africa has always been an exporter of excellence, and everybody's always appropriated or misappropriated our excellence. We now want that excellence to be recognized. This is a hallmark of excellence in the cultural and creative industry. I mean, Minister spoke about the contribution just to jobs over 15%, to the GDP too low, it needs to be better. And with time, I think when we recognize them, they will know, they themselves will also invest a lot in this. I think what the Minister forgot even to say is that there's a cash prize for the winner of each category, which is also unusual in this category, in this space compared to everywhere else. Like you said, you don't just take a trophy, but at least it's some check that you can put on the table for the night.
South Africa has been touted, Minister, as being first at starting things, but never really continuing with the implementation. These are the inaugural awards. Can you then confirm that this will be something that we'll be seeing on an annual basis going forward?
An annual. It's inaugural, whether Zizi Kodwa is there, but they must remain. And I think that's why our focus is not just government. We're trying to crowd in a lot of corporate sponsors so that whether government has money or not, as it is the case now, but they will continue, because the point is that we must inspire other generations to do more, because there's a lot that the creatives and cultural sector can do. Nation building, social cohesion, jobs, but also to make sure that we take South Africa at another level, to the level of the Grammys. And I'm sure the role we're playing every Grammy for the past 10 years, there's a South African who also win the Grammys. That must say a lot about us. And we too, we must serve almost the same level as the Grammys. This is just the beginning. Something will never be the same on the 30th of March. It will look different. We will change it to some Los Angeles in appreciating the role of these categories that would have been nominated.
Well, there you have it. The cultural and creative industry is set to be shaken up by these awards, the inaugural awards. There we have it. Thank you so much to both my guests, Minister Zizi Kodwa, as well as one of our adjudicators, Mr. Thebe Ikalafeng.